Nigeria is polio-free, and that's a huge success that we'll deliberate on tonight on this edition of Weekend File. Have a good evening and welcome to the program. Nigeria is the last African country to be declared free from white polio, having accounted for more than half of all global cases less than a decade ago. The vaccination campaign in Nigeria involved huge efforts to reach remote and dangerous places under the threat from militant violence, and some health workers who lost their lives in the process. The vaccine campaign was backed by government and a coalition of groups, including Rotary International, traditional and religious leaders, school teachers, parents, volunteers, and health workers. Polio Survivors Association of Nigeria says their role had been crucial in persuading people in areas where vaccine was initially rejected to accept the campaign. We will take a closer look at the eradication of wild polio virus in Nigeria after decades of campaign. Tonight on Weekend File, our guest is the Chief Executive Officer, National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Faisal Shuaib. Thank you for joining us tonight on the show. My name is Kieran Umeayo, and the news is next. Minister of Transportation Umeayo has assured the construction company handling the University of Transportation, Daura, of adequate support for the speedy completion of the institution. The minister gave the assurance during an inspection tour of the project. Oina Kaloka was there for NTA News.
Happens to the railway system after putting in a huge sum of money. Will the Chinese continue, or will Nigerians take over? How prepared are Nigerians for this tax, as well as the issue of maintenance? Questions upon questions. Federal government recognizing that local transport sector is in need of thinking skills and investment, initiated plans for the construction of the Transportation University in Daura and the wagon assembly plant in Kajola, Ogun State. At the construction site of 413 hectares of land, Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi said federal government is committed in promoting indigenous capacity and fully establishing the railway industry.
Proper construction will start at the end of September. Hopefully, they should be able to complete it by the end of September next year. But there will be primary school, 2 primary schools, or 2 buildings in the primary school, then a secondary school, a day secondary school, and then the university.
But with this kind of university, we'll now learn new technology, how to construct better roads and make things much, much better for our country.
The progress is commendable. And what is remaining now for them to start the construction of those permanent structures.
The minister was also at the government house and the emir of Daura's palace to seek for support towards completion of the project.
Support the company with security and also whatever they need in order to make their stay in Daura and in Kaduna State safe.
The specialized transportation university is expected to be completed in 2 years, and it is part of the Chinese company's corporate social responsibility in Nigeria. Umeayo Kaloka, NTA News.
After about 1 year of upgrade of facilities and expansion of runway, the Umeayo International Airport is set for the reopening tomorrow, Sunday. Judah Bigwe was there for preparations ahead of the commissioning.
At the main entrance of the Umeayo International Airport, Enugu, where preparations are on top gear for the Sunday's reopening of the airport. After 1 year of closure to undergo rehabilitation work on the runway and also upgrade of the facilities. You can see that apart from the much talked about runway and facility upgrade, so many things are wearing new look at this airport, including the terminal buildings and also the monument you are seeing at the entrance. No wonder it is eliciting a lot of excitement among residents and business communities in this Enugu metropolis.
We've suffered a lot of losses and delays. Now that the airports are going to open, our people are rejoicing. With the reopening of International Airport, I can tell you that many people of the Southeast that are overseas that are willing to come, they can happily come. Christmas is coming and there will be a lot of business activities.
Some of them believe that although it took longer than they expected for the completion of work and reopening of the airport. But it was worth waiting for, as the status of the airport now will attract more investors.
We now have a runway that can take bigger aircrafts. We now have a runway that you can ascribe to international standard. And that is a good development. It is going to open up the economy of the Southeast.
It is no longer about how many months or weeks to the reopening of the airports, but a matter of hours from now. From Akanu International Airport, Enugu, Jude Abugu, NTA.
House of Representatives Committee on Works has restated its commitment to ensuring that Nigerians get value for funds spent on the reconstruction of key road networks across the country. Chairman of the committee, Abubakar Kabir, said this while inspecting the Kaduna Eastern Bypass, Abuja, Kaduna-Kano Highway and Zaria-Funtua Road. Abdullahi Mohammed has that report.
Only 16 kilometers were covered before the Sukuk Fund was handy, and within 2 years, an indigenous contractor has made it 32 kilometers, about 50% of the scope of work.
This one that will link us into Kaduna.
The committee members raised a series of queries with emphasis on quality and the need to meet the delivery deadline.
And we are watching. After 2-3 months, we'll come back here again and see the progress.
Heading towards Zaria on the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Highway, the Works Committee members engaged the contractors on the pace of work. They expressed doubt if they will deliver as and when due.
We asked them whether they have a challenge of payments. They say no. So far they have collected about 70 billion for the projects.
Getting to Jaji, the committee members got the feel of what plays out on daily basis on the road. The contractor was given 7 days to commence remedial works on potholes, which have become the major causes of accidents. The roads inspected by the committee are critical to the economic survival of millions of Nigerians. In Kaduna, Abdullahi Muhammad, NTA News.
Respite has come the way of property owners affected by the ill-fated helicopter crash at Umeayo in Ikeja area of Lagos State. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, while on assessment visit to the scene of the accident, assured residents of government's readiness to take charge of all repair works. Abolade Salami reports.
As owners of the affected buildings are still in shock of the cause of the helicopter crash and reflecting on how they escaped death by a whisker, their joy knew no bounds when Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu suddenly arrived at the premises for an on-the-spot assessment and also to sympathize with them over their loss.
They've taken the samples, the tests are being conducted to understand the integrity of the buildings around, right? And once that is ascertained today, tomorrow, we will start working with the federal government agency. We'll start the reconstruction and the renovation of the places that have been affected.
The building, mostly hit by the impact of the helicopter crash, is still cordoned off in order to allow all relevant agencies carry out necessary tests.
Accidents, and you have all the agencies gathered together, working seamlessly. It is beyond my imagination.
There was nobody in the apartment that became affected. But then in the house, there are people in the house on top. And yet the helicopter did not land on the house itself because it should have just come down like that, and probably 20 or more people would have died.
With evacuation of the wreckage, calm has returned to Salvation Road as business activities are picking up while security personnel are combing the area to prevent any breach of law and order. In Lagos, Abolade Salami, NTA News.
Flood destroys more than 1 million hectares of rice farms and other crops in Kebbi State. Federal and Kebbi State governments, alongside central bank officials, assessed the extent of damage to the nation's rice production. Musa Babali reports that Emir of Gungu is among the victims of the natural disaster.
This is Gandun Sarki rice plantation cluster located in Argungu, Kebbi State. It covers more than 800,000 hectares, with more than 70,000 farmers cultivating the wetland. The entire crop that we are almost ready for harvest were buried under the water. Emir of Argungu, Alhaji Sama'ila Muhammad Mera, is among the victims of the natural disaster. He lost about 100 hectares and his fish pond.
I lost 2 major rice fields. My big farm, 100 hectares farm, is as we speak underwater. I have a pond which is 100 meters by 100 meters. I'm yet to harvest anything because I was just experimenting with a lot of varieties of fish to see if they can reproduce.
Governor Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, the officials of the Central Bank of Nigeria and Rice Farmers Association say the impact of the flood is a setback to food security.
With this, the federal government, the Central Bank of Nigeria, and other institutions and associations will respond to this effectively. The President will shortly chair the meeting of the National Food Security Council, and this, among others, will be on the table.
Move by the Central Bank, the Development Finance Department in particular, that refund should prepare for 1 million hectare dry season. I don't think if we achieve that 1 million, there will be any challenge or shortage of rice in Nigeria.
The farmers are, however, hopeful that with the support of the federal government and the Central Bank of Nigeria, dry season farming will cover what has been lost. From Argungu, Kebbi State, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Omar Farouk, has sympathized with the government and people of Kebbi State following the heavy thunderstorms and floods which washed away 5 bridges in the state. During the heavy downpour, low-lying plains in Jiga community were flooded, while surrounding villages had their farmlands and farm produce, including rice, millet, and maize, destroyed, as well as 5 bridges located in different parts of the state were washed away. The minister described the incident as disastrous and appealed to the Kebbi State government and other states to prepare for the stormy weather ahead. The State Emergency Management Agency has already put machinery in motion to set up IDP camps in Ungwan, Shwayun, in Argungu. 400 people are reportedly from the submerged communities, while rescue operations are still ongoing in the flooded communities. Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Nasir Sani Gwarizo, has said that federal government is committed to achieving greater feat in the ease of doing business in the country. He said this at the workshop conducted by the Ministry in Kefi, Nasarawa State. Suraj Abdullahi has the report.
The latest World Bank annual rating placed Nigeria in 131 position among 190 economies in the ease of doing business ranking in the world. To achieve greater feat, Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment organized this workshop to engage staff and critical stakeholders on the task of creating an enabling environment for business to thrive and actualize the country's dream of industrialization. Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Dr. Nasir Sani Gwarizo, says the Ministry, being the focal implementing agency of government, is mandated by the present administration to put together deliberate strategies for the attainment of the vision of the country in the ease of doing business.
The 3 executive orders of ease of doing business have been promulgated, and you can see how it has paved way for improvements. Nigeria has improved from the position of 169 in 2016 and also 131 in 2019. And now our target is to make it double digit instead of 3 digits.
To be ranked among the best 50 countries in the world. That is the objective we are pursuing.
We are gearing towards improving ease of doing business and therefore getting to industrial growth.
The workshop lasts 2 days. From Kefi, Suraj Abdullahi, NTA News.
Nigeria as a nation needs to take deliberate actions in grooming future leaders who would promote social inclusion and national cohesion. This is the observation of participants at the 4th National Leadership Dialogue of the Nigerian Prize for Leadership under the Leadership Advancement Foundation. Olabode Arewa reports.
Despite their enormous potentials, sociologists believe that one of the major challenges facing Nigeria is how to incorporate the various ethnic, religious, and political views of our citizens to achieve greatness. With a focus on the present and future generations, this virtual dialogue examines some of the factors promoting disunity and discrimination in the country.
When a leader is marching ahead on his own, he's leading nobody, because nobody is following him.
For example, Iam said that there's no woman on security council. Is that why we are still having problems with our security challenges?
As a way out, they advise the recognition and inclusion of some perceived vulnerable groups like the women and physically challenged into the decision-making process across all sectors.
For you as a leader, you must have a vision that you're willing to share with everybody that you want to that you desire to follow you.
Is a deliberate action. If you do not train people to lead, they cannot know how to lead.
The leadership dialogue is the fourth in the series. In Abuja, Olabode Arewa, NTA News.
To further strengthen the socio-economic and cultural ties between Nigeria and neighboring Niger Republic, a 3-kilometer road is to be constructed from Madarumfa in Niger Republic to Jibia in Katsina State. This came to the fore at a meeting between the governor of the state of Maradi in Niger Republic, Zakari Umaru, and his Katsina State counterpart, Aminu Bello Masari, at the government house in Katsina. Awal Halilu reports.
Nigeria and Maradi in Niger Republic have a long socio-cultural and economic relation. The visit to Katsina by the governor of Maradi was to strengthen the existing bilateral relations and specifically discuss on the measures to be taken for the completion of the 3-kilometer road linking the two countries through Jibia axis. The road is aimed at assisting the two countries in transportation. Governor of Maradi Zakari Umaru, while exchanging views with Governor Masari, said the road project was initiated by the government of Niger and is now at the completion stage. He requested Katsina State government to complete the remaining 3-kilometer from Madarumfa in Niger to Jibia in Nigeria. The governor of Maradi noted that the road linked up Katsina with Maradi of Niger Republic and other countries of the ECOWAS sub-region to promote exchange of goods and services. Governor Masari of Katsina State said the state government would ensure completion of the project at Jibia axis.
This specification given tallies only with the state standard of road, but if it is an international road, federal road, I think for us it has to be wider than that. But we will continue with what you have provided so that we will provide the linkage.
The governor added that the state government is to contact the Federal Ministry of Works before embarking on the project. In Katsina, Awal Haliru, NTA News.
Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has ordered all tertiary institutions to reopen on the 14th of September, while government will work towards the 21st of the same month for the resumption of academic activities in primary and secondary schools. Governor Sanwo-Olu made the announcement while briefing newsmen on the status of COVID-19 in the state.
The reopening order came 6 months after all tertiary institutions and basic schools were shut on the order of the government following the outbreak of coronavirus pandemic. Governor Sanwo-Olu said the decision to reopen the schools was carefully thought through given the decline in the number of positive cases and the progress recorded in the state's response. He asked the management of the schools to ensure adherence to the safety guidelines as they reopen their campuses for activities.
It is very important to remind ourselves that the pandemic is still with us in the state.
The governor also permitted the reopening of recreational centers and social clubs that have registered trustees, but on the condition that they obtain a provisional safety compliance certificate through the registration portal of the Lagos State Safety Commission.
A big part of the responsibility for enforcing these guidelines also lie with us as individuals. Shop and business owners and transporters also have the duty to refuse entry or render service to people that are not wearing face masks.
Governor Sanwo-Olu at the briefing launched a COVID-19 care pack which contains medications, hand sanitizer, face masks and handy medical equipment that could be used to check temperature. In Lagos, Nosa, Osula, NTA News.
Samples for COVID-19 do not have to be taken outside Gombe State for testing. This is because the state now has a molecular diagnostic laboratory for that purpose. Emmanuel Akela reports that the laboratory officially opened by Governor Inuwa Yaya is certified by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, to commence screening for COVID-19.
Epidemiologists say collection and testing of samples from persons suspected of COVID-19 is important in curtailing spread of the coronavirus. But the distance covered from Gombe State has impeded the battle against the spread of the pandemic in the state. Hence, the need for the establishment of a center in the state.
We have moved a step ahead. Instead of taking the samples for it to be tested either in Abuja or Jos or anywhere else, we can now test here. And you have the records. And NCDC has a tool that Gombe has so far tested close to 12,000 samples. But with this one now, we can double that in a matter of days.
The molecular diagnostic laboratory put up by Gombe State meets NCDC requirement as the polymerized chain reaction machine remains the best globally acceptable option for the testing of COVID-19 and other infectious diseases.
We will work together with the state to make sure that all these diseases that are plaguing our people, we will test them in the state, report quickly and act quickly to stop them.
Over 3 billion is wasted.
Governor Ino Yahaya also inspected the uncompleted Gombe Mega Motor Park, started in 2012, with assurance of remobilizing the contractor to execute the project to conclusion. In Gombe, Emmanuel Akila, NTA News.
The ancient city of Benin has played host to the Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, on an operational visit to the 107 Air Maritime Group Benin, which is about to get an upgrade among other improvements. Defense correspondent Najaltu Tijani has the details.
Temperatures and sudden heavy downpour in the ancient city of Benin, 27 degrees and drizzling at time of touchdown, can lead buildings to deteriorate. This was the situation when the Chief of the Air Staff embarked on an inspection of some infrastructure at the 107 Air Maritime Group.
You have been around with us, you have seen some of the dilapidated structures. We'll try to see how we can renovate those structures and make them habitable so that those pilots and technicians coming in can have a decent place to retire to after I had this work.
Renovation has already commenced in some parts of the base, with the Chief of the Air Staff expressing satisfaction with maintenance of many of the facilities considering the weather conditions. Personnel on the base also had a durbar with the Chief of the Air Staff, a private meeting between the Air Chief and his men aimed at alleviating some of their challenges. Meanwhile, further upgrades are expected to prepare the base for new air platforms. Naja'atu Tijani, NTA News.
The death has been announced of Atta Igala, Dr. Michael Idako Ame Oboni II. He is reported to have died in a medical facility in Abuja. The monarch passed on Thursday morning after a brief illness. Son of the deceased, Prince Ocholi Michael Idako, made the official announcement this Saturday at the palace of Atta Igala, Ida in Kogi State. The mood in Ida and across the state has been solemn as news filtered in on the passing of Atta Igala. Meanwhile, visitors and dignitaries within and outside the state have been thronging in to the palace to express condolences on the incident. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari commiserates with the family, friends and associates of His Royal Majesty Atta Igala Michael Idako Ame Oboni II over the transition of the paramount ruler of Igala Kingdom and President, Kogi State Council of Chiefs. The President also condoles with the Kogi State government describing the late royal father as a man of peace who devoted his life and reign to the unity and the progress of not only his people, but also the state and country. President Buhari notes that the 27th Atai Gala will be greatly missed for his wise counsels and reputation for honesty, urging the people of his domain to sustain his achievements during his 8-year rule. Tonight on Weekend File, we'll be looking at eradication of white polio virus in Nigeria after decades of campaign and immunization. The conversation with our guest, Dr. Faisal Shoaib, CEO of MPHS-CDA, is up ahead after this break. And reports from our correspondents will be coming also. Don't go away.
Talk to you plenty, Nana, because I get glue too. That make me dey talk. Please, I be not be so. All right. You say I won't talk plenty. Una no self say I no dey lie. You see this glow? If you get them, una no go even una go just they talk they go because it's not there.
Enjoy international calls from as low as 40 kobo per second from Nigeria to the world. Call your loved ones today.
Thank you, my sister. You do well, eh?
Glow Unlimited.
At Elizade Autoland, we don't just sell quality, we build quality. JAC Motors, assembled in Nigeria by Elizade Autoland. High demand for fleets of JAC Motor brands by members of the public and private sectors. JAC Motors are clearly built with one purpose in mind. They are built to serve. Elizade Autoland, sole distributor of JAC Motors in Nigeria.
Moments can be ordinary. What we make of them that really matter. Make the best of every moment, every day, like super moms do with Indomie. Moments to laugh with Indomie. Moments to learn with Indomie. Moments to care with Indomie. Moments to share. Create special family moments with your love. Celebrate these delicious moments with Indomie noodles. Indomie noodles, tasty nutrition, good for you.
We keep it moving. We going straight to the top, like in a nine. We tell them haters, this is war. Slowing down, I'm making a stop. We waiting to drop. Do us a favor.
You understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Going straight to the top, like in a nine. We tell them haters.
Have to say that I'm the boss.
Never slowing down, I'm making a stop. We waiting to drop. Do us a favor. We keep it moving.
Welcome back. 2 years before the declaration of Nigeria as polio-free in 2016, Kano State government has more remarkable progress in eradicating the acute viral disease. Hadiza Mohammed reports that the political will on the part of government, compassion from both traditional and religious leaders to robust surveillance led to the success achieved.
2003, the World Health Organization
adjoined Nigeria to have the highest number of new poliomyelitis world over, with an estimate of 45% of all confirmed cases globally. Kano State accounted for highest number of this figure due to its non-participation in the sub-national immunization campaign owing to unfounded rumors on safety of the vaccines. All these were, however, once upon a time, as active and collaborative efforts of traditional and religious leaders through constant sensitization campaign recorded a milestone achievement in eradicating poliomyelitis, which saw Kano recording the last case of the disease in July 2014 at Rimi Ward of Sumaila local government area.
Strategically, we go by the national schedules for the immunizations, whether the polio SIS and even the non-polio SIS, but then we try to do it in a manner in which it will suit the purpose and then give out the quality deserved.
People think that this polio is something that is mystic, but in order to interrupt the transmission of it, the traditional institution must be involved.
This success story will not also be complete without the mention of Amina Ahmed Tudunwada, a polio survivor who participated actively in the campaign for the total eradication of disease. Aminu, now an employer of labor, has more than 10 of his peers under his tutelage. To further consolidate on the gains so far recorded and ensure Kano State maintains its polio-free status, government has continued with constant surveillance and sustained collaborative efforts of all implementing partners, as well as upholding the national schedule on immunization. In Kano, Hadiza Muhammad, NTA News.
It's more than 4 years now that Nigeria lost the tag of a polio endemic country since no new case was recorded. Now that the country is proudly certified polio-free, Joyken Abapoya takes a look at how the federal government succeeded in achieving this feat.
Against wild polio in Nigeria, which began in 1976, wobbled on for years after several attempts to eradicate the virus failed, mainly due to people boycotting the vaccination. And so, not a few were saddened when the World Health Organization in 2012 declared that Nigeria accounted for more than half of all polio cases worldwide. Undeterred by the news and determined to end infantile paralysis, the federal government initiated yet another strategy. Polio was instantly declared a national health emergency. Increased provision of funding and vaccinators, as well as the institution of a formidable disease surveillance system, were among measures adopted.
Emergency Operations Center, which was established, doing incident management system, such that when the case is recorded, they follow it up to be able to see where the case had come from, and then pay particular attention to immunization in those areas.
The fierce fight became a collective battle, with polio survivor groups, volunteers, communities, mobilizers, religious leaders, and even entertainers joining forces with the federal government. In the long run, the efforts paid off, and polio cases were on a steady decline, dwindling from hundreds to 53, and then a handful of 6 victims in 2014. The complex victory over polio was finally won when in 2015, the World Health Organization had to delete Nigeria from the list of polio endemic nations.
Has now gone more than a year with no new cases reported and with excellent surveillance in place.
Years down the line, the country's polio status remains squeaky clean.
We need to continue to strengthen the surveillance system. We need to strengthen our primary health care centers. We need to strengthen primary health care service delivery across the length and breadth of the nation. At the end of the day, it is singularly the most important. So we must not rest on our oars. We must not become complacent.
For now, experts agree that sustaining this immense success is imperative, and routine wide coverage immunization program is key. In Lagos, Joyken Abapoya, NTA News.
Thank you indeed, Joy Ken, and joining me in the studio for a discussion on this very important issue is the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency in the person of Dr. Faisal Shuaib. You're welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Good evening, viewers.
All right, Nigeria has been certified as a polio-free nation. And what does that signify?
What it means is that we're bequeathing to the next generation of Nigerians a polio-free Nigeria. What it means is that all over Nigeria, we no longer have children being threatened by the wild polio virus, no more children being paralyzed or killed by the wild polio virus. What it also means is that we have validated what people have always suspected, what people have seen in all walks of life when they engage with Nigerians, that once Nigerians come together and focus on an objective and a goal, we deliver on it. That is why when you go all over the world, you see how Nigerians are excelling. This is exactly what we have demonstrated, that we can do it because we have a never-die spirit.
You know, before now, we just had 3 countries that had polio, Nigeria, Pakistan, and
Afghanistan.
And Afghanistan, right. Now, why did it take so long, for Nigeria to attain this very status? Of course, despite all the interventions by successive administrations in Nigeria.
Right, it took a lot from all Nigerians working together. But saying it took long is relative because, for example, many states in the south had eradicated wild polio viruses since the early 2000s. So if you're going to compare a country like Ghana with a state like Anambra or Lagos, right? So, of course, Lagos eradicated wild polio virus a long time ago. And I'm sure that if it weren't for all of the bombs along the way, we would have eradicated wild polio viruses in Nigeria. So what are those bombs that we experienced? One, in the mid-2000s, we had a situation where some clerics went to town and claimed that oral polio vaccine had anti-fertility elements in them. And, that led to refusals. And then subsequently, there was a ban on oral polio vaccination in Kano and Jigawa and a few states. Of course, that almost year-long ban led to an increase in the numbers of wild polio viruses, because if kids are not vaccinated with the oral polio vaccines, then they are vulnerable, and a lot of them got paralyzed with the wild polio virus, right? But apart from that, there was also issues around insecurity, especially in the Northeast. One of the reasons, after doing such a tremendous job of being wild polio free for some time, we got a resurgence because we had not completely finished the work of polio eradication in Borno, right? Because there were places that were inaccessible. We didn't get the opportunity to make sure that there was no wild polio virus transmission, especially around the Lake Chad areas. And once the military began to release populations from there, free them from the insurgency, then we began to see that there was actually wild polio transmission. So you have to look at a lot of dynamics, right? It's not a straightforward mathematics and say, okay, everybody will eradicate at about the same time. You have to look at the epidemiological context. You have to look at even the population density of countries before you say, how did they do it? And, you have to recognize that sometimes it is not about failing to achieve at a specific time, but really having the resilience, the grit to fail and then get up and get it done, right? That shows very, very clearly that we have a very strong and robust system that was able to deliver polio eradication.
Yes, a robust system which was actually done by a coalition of groups. Rotary International, health workers, volunteers, traditional rulers, and perhaps religious leaders. So tell us how this coalition worked with government to achieve this total eradication of polio in Nigeria.
Right, so this is a partnership of like minds working together towards one goal under the leadership of government, right? But the most critical aspect is that government must provide leadership. No matter the numbers of willing partners you have, if the government does not provide the leadership, then it becomes very, very difficult, because a World Health Organization, UNICEF, cannot come and operate within the context of Nigeria because a lot of the people that came were foreigners. Of course, there were some Nigerians, but it took the leadership provided by government to get this done. So leadership from the top to the bottom, from past presidents, that handed over the baton to the next president, past ministers of health, past chief executives of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency and the National Program on Immunization. It took a large number of staff of NPHCDA, the Federal Ministry of Health, so many decades of people that kept on, doing the polio work and handing over to the next. But in the end, right, it took a very strong partnership to get this done. It required the governors also making sure that they contributed. First ladies were always very, very important in all of the states. So in many of the polio campaigns, you also had a situation where first ladies really demonstrated leadership. And this is what has continued for so many decades, up until the time that President Muhammadu Buhari took the baton and then really showed great statesmanship by making sure that when it mattered the most in 2016, he provided the funding and also the statesmanship. He went beyond the money, the 9.8 billion naira. That was not the most important part. It was the fact that he stepped up, encouraged the ministers, encouraged the polio program and say, I'm here for you, I'm here with you. I'll demonstrate that oral polio vaccine is even safe and give it to my granddaughter. He showed that, so that the residual resistance that we had in some communities was completely dissipated by that singular act. And that is what other state governors followed suit. A lot of traditional leaders also followed suit. Some traditional leaders even, swallowed the whole vial of oral polio vaccine, right? Just to show that it is very, very safe. So it's this kind of leadership really that got us together, along with our development partners. Philanthropists such as Alhaji Aliko Dangote working with Mr. Bill Gates. We had a lot of, parents. Parents, very, very important, because the fathers and mothers, despite all of the rumors and the distractions, continue to take their children to the health facilities for routine immunization. So they've been very, very critical. But apart from all of this, we had frontline workers that worked and really made a difference, but we also lost a lot of frontline workers. So for those that lost their lives, for us that, are lucky enough to have seen the crossing of this finish line, we hope that wherever their spirits are, their families will reckon that it was a worthwhile venture that their loved ones embarked on, because it's really, really great that we'll be able to do this.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Faisal Shoaib, the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, we'll be concluding this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
Welcome to Glo's new data plans with night browsing bonus. Dial *777#. Glow Unlimited.
Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne. It's able to calm the nerve of the tooth. The proof's in the results. It works. Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne. It's able to calm the nerve of the tooth. The proof's in the results. It works.
Panadol Extra, now also available in a 4-tablet strip at 50 naira only. Panadol Extra, now also available in a 4-tablet strip at 50 naira only. Panadol Extra, now also available in a 4-tablet strip at 50 naira only.
She cries.
She cries in anguish and in pain. She bears the scourge of her grief. She toils in vain for justice and succumbs to silence. He gloats over his malady. Like a beast, he pounces with no remorse. Her cry means nothing. Her pain feeds her shame. Like an orphan, she's left to grieve in solitude. But no more will she cry in vain. Her adversaries will henceforth bear the brunt of their cruelty. Rape is evil. Rape is a plague, a pandemic of monumental consequences. We must unite and kick it out of our society.
Connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Intensified outreaches, routine immunization of oral polio vaccine, as well as active research for cases are continuing in Edo State. It is expected that this level of vigilance will assist in building on the success that has been recorded in the fight against polio. Agatha Egware-Ujo reports.
Visit of the African Regional Certification Commission in December 2019 to the 3 levels of health facilities for analysis and verification was the first step in the success story in the south-south region of the country.
We came to the state, look at our documentation in the state, the immunization that we are doing, they made sure that we are doing it the right way, and they chose some facilities in the state too, randomly without letting us know.
Strategies adopted to fight polio, key players say, are promising for other communicable and vaccine-preventable diseases.
I must at this time commend our military men. The Boko Haram crisis in the northeast and several other related crises, Nigerian health workers was able to get into those difficult terrains.
For these stakeholders, including the Rotary International Nigeria, that has also been in the forefront in the advocacy and action against polio, apart from sustaining awareness campaign, there are important areas to look into.
Our health system needs to be beefed up to strengthen maternal and child health care services.
We have to keep talking about it, to keep working towards it, taking action.
Existence of the paralytic disease anywhere in the world is considered a threat to children 0 to 5 years in any part of the world. So experts say surveillance and dedication to routine immunization top strategies to continue to win the fight against polio. In Benin, Agatha Egware-Ujo, NTA News.
In Borno State, the campaign against poliomyelitis following the last 3 cases recorded in 2016 was championed by all stakeholders, including security personnel, polio survivors, and traditional institutions who joined hands with the federal and state government, as well as development partners. Mohammed Ibrahim has the rest of the report.
Following discovery of 3 cases of wild polio virus in Borno in 2016 among children in security-compromised settlements, the federal and state governments, supported by development partners, adopted intensified operations and surveillance in all local government areas, especially the hard-to-reach settlements due to Boko Haram insurgency, which involved not only health personnel but security operatives, civilian JTF, and polio survivors as volunteers.
Physically challenged wato gurgu kenan to muna so gwamnati ta ci gaba da supporting na wannan cutan.
Traditional and spiritual leaders also played critical roles in getting the people at the grassroots to accept vaccines against polio, which the State Primary Healthcare Development Agency also described as the most important factor against the 6 child killer diseases.
We use the same strategy to expand the routine immunization to those areas. Apart from the health facilities, we do outreaches to places at the margins of the security compromised areas. That also culminated in the reduction in the number of vaccine-preventable diseases.
Experts such as Professor Emeritus Umeayo describes Nigeria's polio-free certification as a pleasant achievement considering the fact that a lot of challenges were encountered at the initial stage.
Obviously, that's a lot of benefits to the nation, particularly if you look at the fallout from previous epidemics or outbreaks of polio, particularly when it affected children.
Stakeholders are of the view that to maintain the polio-free status, the country needs to improve on and continue routine immunization coverage with enough protection to newborn children, as well as surveillance against importation of the disease. In Maiduguri, Muhammad Ibrahim, NTA News.
All right, thank you, Mohammed. And we're back here in the studio where we still have, of course, the CEO of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Now, we are polio-free for now. Does it mean that all is well and that we should, perhaps relax? Or do we need to make further efforts with respect to sustaining the status that has been achieved?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We have to sustain the efforts. We're white polio virus free for now, but now more than ever, we have to step up our game in terms of making sure that we sustain the resilient situation. We have to continue to improve our routine immunization. Routine immunization has to be the mainstay of ensuring that we do not suffer a resurgence of the white polio virus from the countries that continuously have circulating white polio viruses, Pakistan and Afghanistan, like you mentioned earlier. Of course, there's always the chance that there can be an importation. But if we're able to maintain our routine immunization to the levels that will protect our children, then we'll be able to fend off any types of information of importation. So this is why we feel pretty confident that given the trajectory that we've achieved in the last few years, we'll be able to sustain this white polio virus-free situation, unlike in 2015. Now, in 2016, when we did a survey, a routine immunization survey, we had only about 33% coverage, but now we've more than doubled that in the last 3 years or so, thanks to the leadership provided by Mr. President, the Honorable Minister of Health, to make sure that we kept our eyes on the ball. We've moved routine immunization from 33% to about 71%. That is unprecedented. And with the increased funding coming from the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, we are very optimistic that we are at a point in our lives where there's more funding for primary healthcare. That means we'll be able to transform primary healthcare. We'll be able to move closer to achieving universal health coverage. The same resources that we've used for eradicating white polio viruses is what we're using to support the efforts to flatten COVID-19 curve, right? So we're working with the Presidential Task Force under the chairmanship of Boss Mustafa. And because of that collaboration, we're bringing innovative approaches to ensuring that we're able to cut down on the numbers of viruses that are affecting Nigerians. So at the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, the staff and management have trained over 200,000 healthcare workers within a very short time, so that at the primary healthcare level, the health workers are able to protect themselves, but beyond that, they are also able to provide services, to continue to provide services so that people are not dying from non-COVID causes.
What has been consistent is the fact that successive administrations showed tremendous interest in fighting poliomyelitis in this country. So what did this administration do differently?
Well, like you say, like in northern Nigeria, and I'm sure that there's this culture in the southern part of Nigeria as well, that the most difficult part of a journey is usually the beginning and the end. Or like they say, if when you're having your haircut, the most painful part is when you come to the forehead, when you are finishing. So really, the most difficult part of this journey has probably been the last 4 years, when we had to go to insecure areas, right? To work with the military, work with the traditional leaders, work with community-based organizations, even in the most insecure areas. Mr. President was very, very clear in his directive to the Chief of Army Staff that I do not want to bequeath a polio endemic country to my successor.
All right, Dr. Faisal Shoaib, we're running out of time. We'd like to appreciate your insights. Thank you indeed for coming. Dr. Faisal Shoaib is the Executive Director and the Chief Executive Officer of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Once again, we appreciate your being here today. All right, let's now go to sports. Arsenal Football Club wins first trophy of the season, beating Liverpool 5-4 on penalties as the first football house inaugurated in Ilori, Kwara State. Gift George has more on Sports Update.
Arsenal Football Club on Saturday won the first English silverware of the season after defeating Premier League champions Liverpool 5-4 on penalties after the 2020 Community Shield match ended a goal apiece in regulation time. The match is a traditional curtain raiser for the new English football season. The first football house in the country has been inaugurated in Ilorin, Kwara State by Governor Abdulrahman Abdulrazak, with the president of the Nigerian Football Federation, Amaju Pinnick, and other football stakeholders in attendance. The edifice, named after Usman Mustafa, will provide the administrative structure for grassroots football development in the state.
We're going down in table tennis because the facilities are not there. We're going to build a new table tennis arena as well.
I want to make a passionate appeal on behalf of Nigerian football to name the Kwara Stadium after Rashidi Yekini. That is all in taking football to the grassroots.
In badminton, with the aim of increasing the number of badminton coaches at the grassroots in Ekiti State, a 3-day badminton coaching course has ended in Ado-Ekiti, with sports officers from the 16 local government areas of the state that participated in the training. They were charged to use the knowledge gained to discover more talent in the sport in the state.
If we have to go to the 16 local government areas to discover talents,
I think that we have a lot to translate into the players.
The Sports Writers Association of Nigeria Lagos chapter has taken possession of an 18-seater bus donated to it by the Lagos state government. The keys and documents of the vehicle, meant to assist sports journalists in Lagos to meet up with their event, were handed over to the chairman of Lagos Swan, Debo Oshundun, by the Director General of the Lagos State Sports Commission, Oluwatoyin Gafa.
It's always reward for hard work, and a part of your hard work is what is any individual.
Don't stop a member from using the bus for league matches. I mean, within Lagos.
The donation to Lagos Swan was a promise fulfilled by the Lagos State government. With Sports Update, Gift George, NTA News.
And that's our program for today. We'll see you again next week. Good night.